Hello all, thank you for joining me. This is an introductory class into Darkroom Booth. It is Darkroom Booth 101. This is designed for people that are brand new to using Darkroom Booth, or maybe a future user that wants to see how the setup goes, because some of this can be a little bit complicated. So I'm going to make it as simple as possible. We're going to work on a good foundation and then build up from there. So, but the very basics is what we're going to be focusing on. So if you've been using it for a little bit, some of this may seem a little bit basic to you, but that is what we're going for, so that everybody can get to the next level. We don't want to leave anybody behind. So a little bit of background, if you didn't weren't joining yesterday's class, I have a photography background. I've been doing photography for I believe right around 23 years, and I've been using Darkroom, or a version of Darkroom, for about 19 years-ish. And then I've been working with the company Darkroom Software for the last 5 years. So I got a little bit of a background, primarily in photography, but I was brought on whenever they introduced Darkroom Booth. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I'll be using some files on my desktop. If you attend my class, Darkroom, what do we have? Template design for Darkroom Booth. These files would be included in that class, so you would be able to work along, and that should be in 2 days, I believe. But I'll be giving those files away because we're going to be doing some template design. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into Darkroom. I have it set up, I believe, as close to the factory default as possible. Oops. Sorry, that's Darkroom Core. We're going into Darkroom Booth. Okay, here we go. So one of the very first things I recommend before adding too much is first connect your camera. I am going to be using a virtual camera because I'm using my webcam and digital SLR for this feed. And this is also it's pretty helpful. I'm using Minicam. It's a free utility that allows you to test out, if you run into a problem, you can use this and see if there's maybe something going on with the camera. If it works with Minicam, then it's a camera issue. So just a little tip there. So we're going to go into our main navigator and click on camera. And this, if you're using a digital SLR, it should automatically detect the DSLR. It's detecting my webcam. I'm going to choose my virtual camera. I believe it's set up with a picture of my son. This is also another good way to, just kind of test out, put in different pictures or videos, and then you can run through a session and get different captures. So that's the camera menu. We've got the camera connected. You will probably be using a digital SLR or a webcam. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our global settings, and we're going to add a printer. If you can go to printer options, add printer, and if you're using one of these printers that are directly supported, all you would have to do is select the printer, click add printer, and it should automatically detect the printer if it's plugged in and turned on. So that is helpful. Darkroom searches for the printers whenever you start up, so I always recommend turning your camera on and turning your printer on before you start the software. But we'll go ahead, and I'm going to once again be using a virtual printer because my printer is actually boxed up right now. So I'm going to select a Windows printer. If you don't have a directly supported printer, this is the same thing that you would do. You click Add Printer and then select your printer from a list of installed printer drivers in Windows. I'm going to use my Snagit printer, and all that's going to do is output to a file so I can see so we can all see what's outputting. This is also another great way to save on media when you're doing testing, but you still want to see the whole process go through. So I'm going to set to 4x6. Typically it would already be selected for 4x6 with most photo printers. And those are the two things that I'm going to do right now and for setup. And there's a really good reason we want to test Darkroom in the most basic setup, which is you need a camera, you need a printer. And really you don't even need the printer, but most of the sample events are set up with printing. So at this point I should be able to start the booth, and it will run through and capture 4 photos. And they're all going to be the same photo because it's just pulling from an image in Minicam. It'll take just a moment. And the reason why we're actually doing it this way is a lot of times I work in tech support and I get calls on that Darkroom is just not working, and I ask what was the last thing you did, and they're usually 10 steps down the road before they've actually tested it, and it's really hard to kind of figure out what's going on there because there's so many different variables. So that session has ended. I'm going to click escape. And I can see that it outputted 2 2x6s on a 4x6, and then put it on an 8.5 by 11, which is what this software is set up to do. But yours should have printed out to your printer. And if for some reason you run into an issue here, there's really only 2 different things that we want to look at. Either the camera didn't take a picture, in that case you'd want to look at the camera. Maybe it's having problems focusing. In that case I would turn off autofocus and then see if it captures, and then you know it's a focusing issue. Those type of issues would be resolved by adding more light. It makes it easier for the camera to focus. If that doesn't help, maybe look at some of the cables, how the camera is connected. If you're using a 20-foot USB cable, maybe try a shorter one because the power USB power degrades over length. So if you're using a USB hub, try plugging the camera straight into the hub. But that's the idea, that we add 1 or 2 things and then test each time. So and that all worked. So the next thing I would recommend, because just from experience, everybody goes down this list and checks everything and tries everything all at once, and then you don't know what is actually having the problem. So the next thing I would recommend is adding a email account. So we're going to go back to global settings. And then we are going to click on email and online accounts. Oops, let's go ahead and remove that. That shouldn't be there. So I'm going to click add email account, and I'm going to log into my Gmail account. Almost everybody has a Gmail account, and just for this, if you don't, I'd recommend setting one up. And there's a good reason why I'm suggesting Gmail, and I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so the sender name, it's going to have your name when they receive it. The email address is your email address. You know your password. And the description is something just so you know what email account you're selecting whenever you're choosing the account to send. So you can have multiple accounts. Let's say you have an email account specifically for weddings, and then you have another one for corporate events, and you want to make sure it's going from the correct account. So we're going to click test, and I've gotten outgoing mail connection okay. So if this is your first time setting up, more than likely you got a failed message, and this is why I wanted to start off with Gmail. We're going to go ahead and minimize Darkroom and switch over to, let's switch pictures to. We're going to log into Gmail, click on our account, and go to manage your account. Under security, there is an option right down here that says less secure apps access. That needs to be set to on because Darkroom's using a less secure connection method. If you're using two-step verification, you'll need to deactivate or turn off two-step verification before you add less secure apps. So that is more than likely the reason why you got a failed message. Now, one thing I've seen with Gmail, a lot of times when we turn this on, if you go back and then refresh, it's automatically turned right back off. So you just want to double check to make sure it's set to on, and that if and then test it again, and then you should get a OK message. You might also get another message through your email account saying a new device is connected. You'll want to make sure that you tell Gmail that that's okay and that is you. So the next thing up, we are going to go back and we'll test again. And once you start getting into changing your events, one of the things I recommend, just so you don't go too far and find out something's broken and then not have a way to get back, if you click right here and click create new event, I'm going to create a duplicate of this event with a new name, and that's where I'm going to make my changes. I haven't actually made any changes to any of the event settings. Only thing that we've added was our printer or camera. So still very basic. So next we're going to go ahead and try email, and there's a good reason why I chose this one. It has one photo, means it works a little bit quicker. Okay, so it should send to that email account. Now, one thing you may have noticed is I couldn't see my mouse, and I recommend when you're learning using a mouse, make sure you have a keyboard and mouse, because it just makes things a little bit easier. But because I couldn't see my cursor, more than likely you're using a touchscreen, I was not able to see where I was clicking. So now we're going to start making modifications to this event, knowing that we can always go back to the original. Under controls, this is just to make things a little bit easier for me. I have, I'm going to turn off the hide mouse cursor. And we can kind of see a little bit of the other controls that we have here. If you're using, just while we're here, if you're using a screen that has buttons on it, and start, or black and white in color, or those type of things, I'd recommend turning off your left mouse button. When you touch the screen, then that is registered as a left mouse click, so that you would have left mouse starting the session. So there's a little bit of conflict there. So we've adjusted that. Now we're going to start kind of switch back over to output and kind of look and talk a little bit about some of the basic things. Having your output saved is a really good idea. That's going to save a copy of the file inside the template. So I know I'm kind of jumping around, skipping around, but these are kind of in the order that I think that things should be added. We will create a new folder on my desktop. Call it demo. I did it on another screen, so you weren't able to see that, but let's see. Click cancel on the browse and see if it shows up now. Okay. So it's going to save the strips or the printed file to a folder, and then the next on the list is originals. Let's go ahead and have it saved to the same location, and these are the images that your camera captures. And the reason why I think this is so important is if something happens, if the template gets removed from the computer, something happens within the darkroom, you already have a backup created. And then one other thing that we can do, because we have the email account set up, we can use the photo to phone option, and it'll actually transmit through your email account. So we'll go ahead and turn on that guy, and let me click back on there. So right here it says Twilio, and you can use a Twilio account, and the difference there is that whenever it prompts for the email or the phone number, it'll ask for the carrier as well. And you'll see it in just a second. With Twilio, it just asks for the phone number and it sends it using that service, which is kind of nice, and it allows you to put multiple numbers that aren't going all to the same carrier. But it is not required for just basic use. So next thing is we added copy originals, save output, and Twilio. We'll go ahead and test all three of those. And okay, so there's my original image, and there is my image with the print, and I should receive a message on my phone shortly. And there it is. So that's all working. Now that we know that everything's still working, this is all good, hopefully you're on the same page, let's look to see what's happening kind of in the background. Darkroom is also saving a copy in my prints folder and my originals. So I already have a backup within Darkroom. The reason why we want to have, it's always good to have two copies. If for some reason, let's look at where these are going. It's saving it into a folder in my X drive under a dated folder. This happens quite a bit. I'll see somebody go into their X drive trying to clean up a little bit of space, and then just start kind of deleting stuff that they don't know what it is, and then all of a sudden they're missing from Darkroom. So that's what we're trying to avoid, and that's why we have that redundancy with the other files. So it's never a good idea to go into your X drive and just start moving, renaming, or deleting files. So we're going to switch back over to our settings, and this is where most of the configuration happens. You have your global settings, and those are settings that are applied to the whole booth, and then you have your event settings, and each one of these updates and doesn't affect the other. So there is no saving as you work, it automatically saves. So next thing I want to kind of look at is a little bit of aesthetics. Darkroom comes with a whole bunch of templates, and you can choose from any of these, or you can also go to darkroomtemplates.com and purchase additional templates. But what we're going to do is we're going to kind of make a very simple template from scratch that we can use. So we'll click New, and let's make it a strip, a vertical strip, 2x6 demo. And then we're going to add, we'll say 3 photos. And that's kind of starting to look a little bit like a photo strip. We'll add some text. That's going to make it really hard to read. Let's double click on that and change the color to black. Now I know this is real basic and it's nothing fancy. For the fancy stuff, you'll want to join me for the template design class. So we got photos, text, we'll add a graphic, and what we'll go with is a logo. Documents, and okay, so that is a very simple template, and we're going to click Save. If we're modifying one of the templates that came with the software, we'd want to click Save As. In this case, because it hasn't already been saved, these 2 buttons do the exact same thing. So I'm going to click Save As, and the description becomes the file name. And then we're going to click Choose. It's saying that it does not match the it doesn't match the size, it doesn't the photos either. So click Yes. Well, it's now set to match output. We can also select 3 images, but we're also going to change the size from 4x6 to 2x6. Okay, so that's all looking correct. And then the next thing we'll do is let's switch over to our screen. That is what people interact with. So a question I get quite a bit is, do my screens have to match my print? The answer is no. I also get, can I make my print template my screen so they do match? And the answer is kind of. So the screen is a very different, it's a different proportion than a print. So if you try to turn a 2x6 into a 9x16 ratio screen, they just don't match. The square peg doesn't fit the rectangle. So what I like to do here is select from one of the screens that already exists. This is a very simple one right here. It uses a touch, left button touch, so just touch the screen and it starts. Another one that I really like that has a little bit more control is this guy right here. And you can see it has color and black and white as options. So let's go ahead and we're just selecting it without making any modifications. And testing out again. So because your time is valuable, I'm going to pretend that I tested this because I have tested it before. And we're going to go into editing our screen template. So let's say I wanted to have black and white color and then also a sepia option. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcuts, Control C, Control V to copy and paste. And I can see right over here I have a duplicate of the color button. So now I'm going to modify that one. Let's change the text to sepia, and then we're going to change the command to sepia plus start. So whenever you push that button, it is now sepia. And just because I'm kind of weird about these type of things, we're going to select all of these and then space equal spacing. And those type of things, that's what we're going to get into with the design class. How do you make this look a little bit better? One more small thing I'm going to add a graphic, but instead of a logo this time, I'm going to add a background. So on my desktop, I have a folder of backgrounds. We'll choose that guy. And when I added that, it went on top of everything, and I need it to go to the back. So there are a couple ways. I can right click and send it back, or I can just click and drag to the back. And that's starting to look a little bit better. Another fan of this color clash right there. Let's go ahead and you know what? We'll make it the same color as these guys. I'm not sure what gray this is, so it's a great time to add a custom color. When I do that, now when I come over here, I can match that exactly. Okay, so there is a new screen. While we're here, let's talk a little bit about these guys right here. It's placeholder text for the countdown. Let's say I want that countdown to be, how big do we get it now? Let's go with 200. See if we can make it real big. Okay. And so that's where the countdown is going to be. That's this placeholder text countdown. And you can see the different placeholder options that we have right here. If you use just the normal text, that's going to apply all the text from the text menu, which we'll look at in just a second, to one single area, and then you can pick and choose and pull out like we did here with the countdown, and everything else will go to this guy right here. And he's become kind of hard to read, so we'll double click on that, change the text to black. Hopefully that's a little bit easier, not too much. We'll go back to white and then do an outline. Oops. There we go. Let's go with 5, and I think that'll probably be good. Okay, so now it's easy to read. So that's the placeholder text. Let's go ahead and save as a new file, save as, so we don't save over the original template. That's really important because if you broke it, it's kind of hard to get back to the original if you've saved over it. Okay, so we've saved that template. If we click choose, we can see that here is the original screen template. Here's our updated version. We can go ahead and click choose again just to select it. So now's the time to test it out. And we'll see that the text underneath the screen says touch the screen to start. Now we've switched over from just a basic touch screen to one that uses buttons. And we want to update that text as well. So if we go to our text menu, we'll update that text, and we can look through here and see if there's anything additional that we need to update. And just to kind of give you a little preview of some other options. These are kind of hidden at the bottom. This gives us an option to do a photo selection, photo signature, review, including booth edit and doodle, so we would be able to write on the screen and those type of things, or an option for a survey. We're kind of trying to keep it simple, so I'm gonna skip that for right now, but I do want you to know that there are quite a few options towards the bottom that you can play around with. Okay, so click Start Booth again, and just make sure that the update fits, that the text isn't too large for the text box, and everything looks good there. So now that we've kind of got a basic of, our print template, our screen template, capturing images, printing images, let's look at some of the different options that are built into Darkroom Booth. So we have our sample basic touchscreen, and I typically like to go to the screens to kind of see what the interface, how our customer is going to interact with it. So if we click on green screen sample event, now this is one that I see an issue that comes up quite a bit. Somebody will select a cool screen template like this, or a print template, and then it comes out just a little bit funky, and that's because this is intended for a green screen. If you don't have a green screen, then everything goes weird. So if you run into an issue where it looks like somebody's a ghost or something like that, go over to make sure first that if you're using green screen, it has a green screen background behind the subject. But if you're still having problems, then check out the photos, because it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. And a lot of times that whole ghosted image is because it's underexposed or overexposed. So if this would actually work because it works with green screen or blue screen, but if it was dark like this, or let's say maybe just a little bit brighter, this would not work. Everything would come out very odd, and you wouldn't know because you're looking at the print version, but once you look here, you would know, hey, this image is underexposed. So that's an adjustment I did in the software, but that's an adjustment you'd want to make on the camera, or in your camera menu. Let's switch back over. And if you have a digital SLR, you would have controls over the exposure here. So one of the things that a lot of people will run into. But if you do not have a green screen background, do not choose a green screen template. And you can tell green screen templates because you can see through them. You can see this is not a green screen template. It has a gray box around it. This is a green screen template because you can see through the photos to the background. Here's another example. And then so some of these templates do come with a information like this, and these are the designers when they originally made the software. They had them include it so they can generate revenue, and maybe have people purchase templates from them. But you can remove it or send it to the back if you want to save it, if you ever need to go back and find out who created it. So we'll go ahead and click cancel and get back on track. And at this point we're more talking about what the software can do, not actually building and setting it up, because this is starting to get a little bit more advanced. We have our mirror booth event. This one is set up for people that use in a vertical screen and they have animations, but they don't use live view. That's one thing I see a lot of people run into. They'll want to turn on live view for their mirror, and they're not intended to work together because the camera is constantly getting turned off by the videos or the animations. So just one thing to keep an eye out for if you're using a mirror booth or you're using animations with a live view, you'll probably run into issues. And then we have our video photo booth, and this is a really cool one to kind of play around with if you're doing video. So if you are looking to video, you want to download FFmpeg from our website. It's a free install. It's just a conversion software or utility to bring the file size down on videos so that they're more manageable. But let's duplicate this, and I'll show you how I would make a did I just spell duplicate? A slow motion or a burst mode. So we're going to go back into our screen editor, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on right here. We can kind of just choose this to kind of clear it up a little bit. This does not change anything inside the actual template, what displays. This is just different settings so you can see what it looked like as the session progresses. But this is the thing we'd want to change right here. It's set for video session. We can change that to a burst session, and then we would just change the text right here. Let's go ahead and do that. So, and one of the main reasons why I chose this template is I don't have this font, and most people will not have this font installed on their computer. So it's going to automatically replace with a different font. I'm going to just choose Arial Black and adjust that, and I can use my scroll wheel to kind of get it down in size, and I want them to look similar, so I'm going to actually delete that one, copy this one, paste it using Control C, Control V. Okay. And then save as, because we don't want to save over the original after we've made these changes. We always want to be able to go back to the original. That's one of the things I would like to stress in this class. Do your best to make a duplicate and make any changes to a duplicate so you can always go back a step. Save as and burst. And it's going to give me this error saying I don't have this font because it's still being used in other areas. No big deal. It's not going to hurt anything to get that error. Okay. So that is kind of starting to get into booth 102. For resources, I'd recommend checking out darkroomsupport.com. Oops. Okay, and this is our knowledge base. If you click here and look at the different topics, if you're curious about learning more about green screen, we have a section for that. Email and social media, this will cover adding Twilio, uploading to Dropbox. If you're running into problems with live view, how do you save files, different options, printing, everything we try our best to cover everything within the knowledge base, any questions that might come up. So this is an amazing resource. Next on the list of places to go, darkroomtemplates.com. And here you can look for, we have free templates available. We're always doing deals on templates, but right here specifically, one of the things I wanted to show you, if you wanted to do a setup, you can download one of these. Let's see, let's choose one that's, I think, we were just talking about burst mode. We'll go ahead and add this to the cart. Check out. And what this is a pre-configured event file that you can add to Darkroom as a screen template and then load, and then it skips some of the configuration, or it shows you how I would configure a event, or an event. So I just wanted to go through this real quick so you can see how you would actually install one of these templates. So download items. I don't think it's going to be too slow of a download. And it's going to download as a zip file. We'll double click on that. We can also extract it, but I'm going to go ahead and copy it and then go into my X drive, and this is where my templates are stored. I want to save it to my screens, so we'll paste it right there and then switch back over to Darkroom and see if we can find that template. There it goes. Okay, so when I choose it, it's going to tell me would I like to load the settings to this event, a new event, or cancel. I'm going to do a new event, and there I have a burst mode session event already pre-configured. That's something that's really helpful to get started or learn how to do something new. This is pre-configured and does a lot of this stuff and the setup for you. So hopefully that is helpful. And then if you have questions, email support@darkroomsoftware.com, or you can also call us 800-517-4522 extension 2 for support. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's jumping around, but whenever you're first learning, it is a little bit of jumping from one place to another place and then back and testing. But it's really important to get that basic foundation. A lot of times people will get a new booth with Darkroom pre-configured and they're told, oh, all you have to do is hit this button and it goes, and that's truthful, but how much are you missing out by not knowing how to configure it in other ways? So that is a great Darkroom support. Darkroomsupport.com is an amazing resource. There's videos, how-to guides, those type of things. So thank you so much for joining me, for hanging in there. And I believe Wally is going to take over and handle questions and answers from here. I do appreciate time, and hopefully next year we'll be able to see each other in person. I'll see you next time. Hi, it's me again. If you haven't already subscribed, now is the perfect time to subscribe. Click the subscribe button down there, and if this video was helpful, I would appreciate a big thumbs up. That allows other users to it's more easy for them to find it. Algorithm stuff. But here are some other videos that YouTube thinks you would like. Thanks so much for stopping by. See you next time.